you sexy, beautiful people. Of course, I know what you're doing. You're here satisfying your primal urges by listening to me. All right. So this is great. Jeanine Pirro. I did not know. I think I've always pronounced it Pereiro. But anyway, it doesn't matter. She is awesome. She is this hot chick that is she's a judge, and uh, man, she got pulled over one time for doing like 110 in her Jaguar. It was like I don't know, a year or two ago, and when asked about it, she was like, "What's this? What's to say?" I mean, I was driving. That's just awesome. She's totally based, totally. And anyway, um, she's covering a part here that you see a lot of. People keep wondering about the cops in Utah. People go so far as to blame the cops in Utah for not doing more. When everybody's seen that video now where Gabby and Brian got pulled over and stuff, and the cop said, "Listen, I'm not going to arrest you," which I applaud that. I applaud that. Our domestic relation laws are so screwed up in this country. They're made for one thing, and they're made for men to forever be under the thumb of public opinion and government. It is asinine that it's become it's a political play. I mean, it's not about stopping domestic relation or assault or abuse or anything like that. It is so targeted towards men. It's sad, and the thing is with it is like with this case here. He had cuts and bruises all over his face. Brian did. Gabby was just crying. She was the one that was going to be arrested. And that's what people don't realize. It's our system's broken. That is a broken part of our system. So anyway, this Judge Jeanine's going to weigh in on it. I have no idea. I haven't read this yet. So let's go over this together, and I'll tell you if she's wrong or if she's right. Domestic relation has a long, ugly history. Based on beliefs that it's okay to beat your wife or girlfriend without consequences. Well, right there, you're already wrong. Because, I mean, dude. Oh my gosh. What about same-sex couples? I know I started one of the first domestic violence units in the prosecutor's office in the nation, 78. Funded by the Department of Justice, blah, blah. We proved that with proper support, women will cooperate with charges brought on their behalf by the people of their state. So what they're saying there is that the state prosecutes. The woman doesn't have a say in it. What she does have a say in is whether or not she'll testify. And if she doesn't testify, then it's not, at least in Tennessee, at least the way it used to be, so it would not be domestic. It would be, what was it? Oh, I forget now what it was called. It was like it can't be assault because that'd be domestic. It was reduced like a lower charge, disorderly conduct maybe. Anyway, we create shelters, summon churches, we fought for new laws, brought in mental health counselors, and educate people and judges. We crusaded for victims, many of them too shy or ashamed to come forward. Okay, good for you. I don't want to hear about how everything you did just became sprinkles and ice cream. Domestic violence laws were created to protect all domestic violence victims, regardless of the victim's address or location. It's suggesting that Gay Petito and Brian Laundrie are not from Utah. The police were precluded from making an arrest or getting involved in it is not only incorrect, it is dangerous. It's true. She's right about that. Utah Code makes it very clear that the primary duty of law enforcement officers is in a domestic violence call to protect the victim and enforce the law. Section 2B reads that shouldn't be spaced. That if police officer has probable cause to believe there will be continued violence. Now, here's the problem. The problem there is you have to have probable cause. When the threshold is higher for probable cause than, like, say, reasonable suspicion. What that threshold is, nobody there isn't an answer for that. It's a case by case type of thing. You get a knack for it by practicing it. Practicing in law. not practicing domestic violence. But you understand where probable cause and reasonable suspicion come in. I mean, it's like you could say that people wearing certain clothes, that might make you reasonably suspicious. Does it give you probable cause to arrest them and detain them and search their car? No, of course not. The extreme hypothetical like that, about the only way you can really kind of lay out what the difference are between the two. But where that line is, it's very fluid. If the officer has probable cause, a victim, the alleged victim, the officer shall arrest. So, and also remember, she capitalized shall here because shall is very different than may or can or any other term of art you want to use. Shall, you don't have a choice as an officer. And take the perpetrator into custody. There's no option. Shall means okay. It's not unusual. This is not at all unusual across the nation. There are mandatory arrest laws that require police to separate the parties to determine who is the primary aggressor, not the aggressor of the first impression, but deeper dive into who is the primary aggressor. Police officers are trained to identify a victim, to look beyond first impression, who is crying, who takes responsibility for the abuse, and who is fearful of speaking up. Y'all just don't talk to the police. Moab police were told by their dispatcher Laundrie was seen slapping and hitting Gabby repeatedly by witnesses. And remember, these are people that are like driving by on the street. These people didn't show up there to say this is what happened. These are callers. Again, for an extreme hypothetical, think about swatting. I mean, the cops put in a hard position with these things. Let's see here. Going away to call 911 repeatedly by witnesses who took the unusual step of going out of their way to call 911. Laundrie was in possession of Gabby's phone. Why? And why was he preventing Gabby from getting into her own van? Didn't know that was part of it. Anyway, the more police are reticent to perform their duties, reluctant to make arrests, and unwilling to assess who the primary aggressor is, the more women will die at the hands of the overconfident male who tells police she's got issues. Mandatory arrests were enacted to stop the deaths of innocent victims. Until they are enforced, every battered woman is endangered. Jeez, that is such a woman's article there. Look, domestic violence is horrible. I mean, it's the worst thing in the world. And the definition of domestic is very broad. I mean, if your roommate and you are domestic partners. But at the same time, man, and I learned from a public defendant. She was my criminal law professor in law school, and she said, I'm going to say something you guys probably don't know, probably don't want to hear. And she said that in domestic violence cases, you get, he beats her, and then she'll turn around the next night and she beats him. And says it goes back and forth like that until one of them finally says, I'm going to call the law. And next thing you know, the law is called, and they say, it happens over and over and over again. She's like, they're just a toxic duo. And we still can't figure out how to end it. It's one of the things that everyone just is sickened by. But now we'll talk about, I don't know. We'll give money to salmon reproductive research, but we're worried about. But we won't just say, hey, listen, you know what? Doesn't matter, guy or girl. You're an asshole if you're in domestic violence here, if you're creating it. So, anyway, I think Judge Jeanine here went very personal. She didn't use it broadly. Guys can be victims of domestic violence just as easily. So, anyway, other than that, after that morbid sounding read, please give me a subscription, and we'll be back doing some cool stuff, and you guys stay good at it. Godspeed, and see you later, guys. Hey guys, don't forget to subscribe or check out another video.